There it is. We are live on Facebook. Good morning. We are live on Rumble, YouTube, X. Good morning. Let's check in on LinkedIn. Looks like it is coming in on LinkedIn. We in on LinkedIn. Yes, we are live on LinkedIn. Good morning over there on Instagram. We are live on Instagram, TikTok. We are live. Good morning. Tell me your locations where you are checking in from. Topic here today. So now those of y'all on TikTok, y'all can see the topic. So the rest of you on Rumble, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook, you all can see the topic as it actually gets posted for all of you to see. On TikTok, I've been told that y'all can't see the topic, but you can all see the topic now because now we have this new thing on TikTok they call boards. So now you can just get on the board and or not get on the board, excuse me. You can view the board and you can see what the topic is. So let me get my pinned comment in place on IG. There it is. Hope everybody's had a great start to your month of June. Hope everyone had a great weekend. We are already in June. We're almost halfway through the year, folks. So I hope you are keeping up with your plans and your goals for what you said you were going to do this year. Traditional all day. Good morning. Please like the live on TikTok, especially. Ron Johnson checking in from Ohio. Shout out to Ohio. The topic here today, y'all see the topic. We're going to talk about Pride Month because June in the United States of America is Pride Month. Now, I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, but yesterday when I was on X, I saw like every major pro sports team. I didn't stop and take stock of every single one of them, but a whole bunch of the big four major sports. I saw every pro sports team post something in, I guess, solidarity with or recognition of Pride Month. This is all the football teams, NFL, basketball teams, hockey teams, and baseball teams. We're all posting something about Pride Month. And I'm sure corporations are doing the same. And I guess because I was just responding to some sports discussions, I guess I just saw more sports companies do this. And this is this whole messaging about Pride Month. Was those of you who don't know, that's the rainbow flags month of, I guess, recognition and celebration, I guess, for lack of a better term. Now, this started as a niche movement to raise awareness around the gay and the T people's issues, and it's turned into a full-blown, I think we had to be fair and say a full-blown cultural takeover. I think it'd be fair to say this. A full-blown cultural takeover with an entire month dedicated to it. Meanwhile, foundational American figures, people who have actually done things of true substance for the United States of America, such as our past presidents, such as a statesman like Ben Franklin. I just finished reading his book last week. Now I'm reading Booker T. Washington's book, or the book about Ben Franklin. Now I'm reading Booker T. Washington's book. Martin Luther King Jr., our veterans, people who helped shape this country and turn this country into what it is, such as who we celebrate on the 4th of July, also known as Independence Day. They all get one day. Veterans get one day, Memorial Day, one day, and maybe a hashtag if they're lucky, and a cursory acknowledgement from these same organizations, big organizations, corporate-based organizations. They may get a cursory reference, but most people are not paying much attention to it. And the Pride gets an entire month. So the question that we're going to address here today is, why does this movement get so much air and oxygen? Where did it come from? Who is it really serving? And why are very few people willing to speak critically of this very concept? Because this concept is, just for the record, an abomination. And I'm going to explain exactly why, how, and where this is going in this conversation here today. So first things first, if you're watching on TikTok, please make sure you like the live on TikTok. By the time we get through the content here, we want to be at 50K at least. And then when we get into the comments, we want to get another 50K. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 41 books. I've done 4 TEDx talks, and I own this company called Work on Your Game. Incorporated, what we do here is we work with sales teams, sales people, entrepreneurs, and business professionals who are looking to increase their performance, the consistency of that performance, and of course the results. They want to enjoy the results that come from that stepped up performance. We help people with that through our system, which is translated from what works in the sports world. We translated that over to what works in the business world. You can learn more about that by going to the links you see in my profile or any pinned comments or posts that you see on different apps. We have different things. Or you can just go to Work on Your Game University. That is workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where you can learn about working with me directly as a trainer, coach, consultant, or speaker. So let's get into this topic here of Pride Month. First, let's get a background on where this came from. So Pride Month began in June to commemorate what they call the Stonewall riots of 1969 in New York City. I didn't even know this, so I started looking into this. So 1969, there was riots in New York City. It was a clash between gay patrons and police that sparked what is now the modern LGBTQ movement. It was a clash. Originally, it was about visibility and equal rights. That's what the Rainbow Flag group was fighting for. And that's what it started with, is morphed into a month-long cultural event with parades, corporate sponsorships, political lobbying, and public school participation. Again, we're going to get into all this. The target audience has been, of course, the people who identify as LGBTQ and whatever else, and their allies, especially the young people. And not just the people in the flag community who are young people, but just young people in general. So you got the Gen Z and the millennials who are being targeted by this Pride Month. Also, corporations, as I told you yesterday, I saw a whole bunch of corporate-based companies, specifically sports companies, but then also just big corporations, the places that you spend a lot of your money. They are recognizing, they use this month to basically virtue signal and show everybody, hey, we are aligned with and we support this very concept of Pride Month. A lot of big companies are doing this, and they all did it yesterday because yesterday was the first of the month. And I'm sure we're going to see more as the month goes on. And they're looking to virtue signal, number one. They want to gain social currency, number two, because this is a popular thing. So now people are saying, okay, I guess this is what we got to do to show that we're aligned with the popular thing. And this is what corporate America does. Whatever seems to be popular, they go along with it. You're not going to see corporate America going against the grain most of the time. You're going to see them following the grain or going with the grain. So they're gaining social currency, and or they're looking to avoid backlash. Because if you're the name of sports, the LA Lakers, and you don't put out a message saying we support Pride Month, but then every other team in the NBA did put out a message to say they support Pride Month, then you're going to get singled out for not saying anything. Hey, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you make a post? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And this is what happens when people start following socially, is that if you don't say something, then somehow you get looked at as if you're doing something wrong if you don't support this thing. But this thing is kind of ridiculous. And some critics say that this has become, number one, overexposed, number two, highly politicized, and number three, used to push sexual content towards children, and number four, give disproportionate attention compared to other historically significant groups or events. You could say that one 3 times. So again, let me say those 4 things. These are what critics argue, and we're going to talk about these things. Number one is overexposed, that they are pushing this way too much because not that many people who are even part of this group. So why is this small group getting this outsized amount of attention? Which is a great question to be asking, because a lot of people who push back on for example, the boys playing in girls sports, they say, well, it's only a handful of boys who are playing in girls sports, or people who call themselves T boys or T girls. There's only a handful of them. So why are politicians making a big deal out of it or talking about it when they should be talking about something more important? Okay, if that's the way that we feel, then why not the same argument when it comes to Pride Month? There's only a handful of people compared to the larger population that are actually part of this group. So why do they get an entire month and all this recognition from these big corporations, since there's only a handful of them? Why are they getting this attention? Shouldn't all the attention be going to things that are more important in our lives? Or what they'll do is push back and say, well, what's wrong with us celebrating? Why can't we just celebrate? So there's always this relative privation is what we call it, which is when you look at a situation and someone is criticizing it, and then people say, well, why are you criticizing that when you should be talking about something more important? And people can use this any way that they want, anytime something that they support is being criticized. They can say, oh, why are you criticizing a boy playing in girls sports? There's only a few of them. Here's a more important thing you should worry about, like taxes and inflation. Or why are you worried about Pride Month and people celebrating the rainbow flag, when instead you should be paying attention to more important things like Donald Trump is doing this bad thing that's going to hurt everybody. So that's called the relative privation, and people use this all the time. So the critics say this is overexposed. It is highly politicized. Politicians have gotten involved in this, which makes it more crazy. It is used to, and this is the undercover piece, push sexual content towards children. Because if every sports team and every corporation is saying we celebrate Pride Month, what is a 4-year-old kid going to say if they see everybody putting up this rainbow and saying we celebrate Pride Month? They're going to say, Mommy, Daddy, what does that mean? What does that rainbow flag mean? What is that about? What do you mean Pride Month? What does that even mean? And as a parent, what do you tell your kids? Now you got to answer the question because they see it. You can't act like it's not there. And now they're being exposed to it. Now you got to answer the question. What do you tell your kids? And this is pushing sexual content because in order to explain what it is, or explain what the flag is, you have to explain to people what Pride is allegedly about. You got to explain what the LGBTQ is. And now you're putting that in your kid's head, and they may only be 4 years old. And hopefully it's you who's explaining it to them, let alone are you sending your kids to school and there's some blue-haired teacher explaining this to your kids. Now, that one is what you really should be concerned about in the month of June. There's some teacher who may be an ally or a participant in the LGBTQ who is explaining to your kids what that means, why it's a good thing if they're an ally or a participant, and they're telling your kids that they should be open to this and accepting of this, and maybe even, hey, we don't even know if you are a heterosexual. Maybe you're one of these as well. You know, just because you were assigned something at birth, quote unquote, by a doctor does not mean that's exactly who you are. Maybe there's another way of looking at this. This is the way that you got some teachers teaching your children. Now, this is one of the reasons that I am strongly in favor of the concept of homeschooling, because I don't want someone who I haven't vetted personally, i.e. a teacher, telling my kids what to think, how to think, or how to look at certain social issues that are important. And if you're sending your kids to a public school, then that's the control that you're giving up. So you should know who you're sending your kids to be with at any time. Whether you're sending them to school, you send them to a play date, you send them to a sleepover, you should know who you're sending them to and what they're learning when they're over there. And if you don't like what you're hearing, then you might want to think twice about sending your kids to those places. But anyway, and other historically significant groups or events or people. Again, why doesn't George Washington get a whole month? Why doesn't Martin Luther King get a whole month? Why don't our veterans get a whole month? But Pride gets an entire month. And not only that, again, it's not even so much that they get the month, because there are months for everything, things that we don't even know about. There's probably a bicycle month, or people who remote control day or something like that. There's all these crazy kind of days. You can look, there are websites out there that have all these obscure holidays listed that you can find out about if you don't know about them. The bigger issue is not so much that, it's the participation, is that all these big companies are participating in this. Because there was something, I saw it on my Facebook business suite. Let me see if I can find it. So on Facebook business suite, they always tell you like some random world celebration day is coming up. So for example, tomorrow, according to what Meta is telling me, is World Bicycle Day. Does any of you know that June the 3rd is World Bicycle Day? I didn't know that, but there are these random days, but nobody's going to be celebrating World Bicycle Day tomorrow. But when you have big companies telling you that they're celebrating Pride Month and they all do it in a coordinated way on the first of the month, that is creating attention societally for everyone to notice this. And why is that a problem? Well, let's just start here off the top before I even get into the rest of the points I want to get into. Number one is that it is said in the Bible that going against the heterosexual frame is an abomination. It said that is an abomination, period. And there's no equivocation to that, number one. Number two, pride, the term pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. Number two. So these people have hijacked the concept of pride and turned it into something, flipped it around to mean something that's supposed to be, you're supposed to be celebrating of this, but it's one of the 7 deadly sins, number two. Number three is that the rainbow, a lot of people know where the rainbow comes from. The rainbow was a signal from God after the flood, 40 days and 40 nights, that he would never do that to mankind ever again. It was basically a handshake agreement from God. I won't do that to you ever again. That's what the rainbow actually means. That's where it came from. First time we saw a rainbow, that's what it was. Now they have hijacked the rainbow to mean something that has nothing to do with that. Now the rainbow means you are actually doing something that the person who created the rainbow, or the entity, let's say, who created the rainbow, says is an abomination. So again, it's completely backwards. And on top of all of this, they're pushing this on kids. What's the worst part of all of it? Because see, if you want to push a bunch of things on adults, adults can push back. If you're pushing things on kids who are innocent, their brains aren't fully developed, and they don't have the language or the tools for the most part to push back against the nonsense. And you, as an adult who has a position of authority, such as a school teacher or even a parent, you're teaching this to your kids. This doesn't quite make any sense. And I know even me saying this is going against the grain, because a lot of people have adopted this, or they're just quietly allowing it. And a lot of people like to say, well, if you won't speak up against something, that means you're complicit in it. I'm not a big advocate of that, because it's kind of like you're trying to force people's hands. But this is one in which I do have something to say, and I'm not a supporter. So this all started as a movement for visibility and equal treatment under the law. I get it. So if you're part of the rainbow group, that's the reason why the Pride started. It's just visibility and equal treatment. We just want to be treated equally. Maybe we just want to be left alone. And if the LGBTQ group, the rainbow flag group, said, look, we just want to be left alone, want to be allowed to live how we want to live and do what we want to do, and we ain't bothering anybody, and we just want to be in our space and not have anybody impugn on our rights as human beings, even though we may be doing something in the bedroom that you are not a fan of. If that's what it was, and actually that is what it is on some levels, I'm completely okay with that. Now, because an adult can do what you want to do. All right, if you're an adult and you believe you're a dinosaur, I don't agree with you, but if you think you're a dinosaur, you're free to think you're a dinosaur. If you're an adult and you decide you want to lay, you're a man and you want to lay with another man, I don't agree with you. But if that's what you want to do, I have no say in what you do behind closed doors in your own bedroom. You can do whatever you want to do. Same thing with a woman, or if you decide, if you're a man, you decide all of a sudden that you're a woman and you want to pretend that you're a woman. As long as you don't come around me trying to force me to agree with your bullshit, then go ahead, do what you want to do. However, what Pride has become is this: not only do we want you to leave us alone and not impugn on our rights, which is fine, that was already happening. That happened over in the shadows. They have their little spaces. For example, in South Beach, I remember one of the first times I was in South Beach, I was at like 12th Street and Ocean Drive, and I was on the beach. I was literally on the sand by myself. And I'm looking around, I see these rainbow flags, and I didn't quite know what it was. And then I was looking around, I'm looking at the men there, and it looks like it's way more men than women. And South Beach usually is a lot of women. There's way more men than women. These men seem very effeminate. And I realized that I was at this is like the gay part of the beach. So if you go to Miami Beach and South Beach, between like 12th Street and like 13th Street, they have this like 2-block strip on the beach, on the sand, that is basically for the gay people. And I realized that. But if they have their little space carved out, cool. Keep their little space carved out. Now, don't take your little space and start parading it around to everybody and saying, we want recognition from everyone. We want participation from everyone. We want to be noticed by everyone. We want all these organizations to point us out and recognize us and acknowledge us. Now you're stepping across the line. If you just say, let us have our space and leave us alone, fine. But when you start spreading out and saying, no, now we want everybody to recognize us, now you're going to get pushback, and they deserve pushback. What has happened is Pride has evolved into this month-long, in-your-face marketing blitz that is going beyond acceptance. Because, see, what it started with was acceptance. Okay, there are some people who choose to live alternative sexual lifestyles. Just accept the fact that there are people who do this because they're consenting adults. They do what they want. Fine, I'm all right with that. You got it, done. What happened is now we don't only want acceptance. Now we want we want celebration. So first it was just recognition. Actually, started with acceptance. All right, you exist. Secondly, it was recognize us. That's the second step. Recognize that we're here. Don't just accept that we're all the way over there and ignore us. Now we want you to recognize us. So now they get a march. Now they get a celebration. Now you got all these. Let me see if I can find it on X. There was so many of them. It was ridiculous. All these organizations posting. It was so many, I can't even count them all. So here's Sesame Street. Sesame Street, ladies and gentlemen, this is what your kids watch. Sesame Street. Telling you, this is what they said. On our street, everyone is welcome. Together, let's build a world where every person and family feels loved and respected for who they are. Happy Pride Month. Sesame Street. They did it. Hamilton West End. What's Hamilton West End? Is an award-winning Broadway musical in London. They said, love doesn't discriminate. Pride Month. And I can just go down the list. There's so many of them, I can't do them all. Snoopy posters, Pride Month. Ghost Host, I don't know who Ghost Host is. Let's go to something that we know about. Let's see. It was so many of them. It's not even. I don't know if I can even get through all of these. Let's see. There were so many organizations. I don't know if there's a way to actually find all the organizations, but I saw the Minnesota Timberwolves, the New York Yankees, name a pro sports team. They were all doing it. Let me see. It's hard for me to search through and find them. Mariah Carey posted about Happy Pride Month. Mariah Carey, all right, she posted. Let's see what else we got. The state of Minnesota, behind Governor Tim Walz. No matter who you are or who you love, you are welcome here. Happy Pride Month, Minnesota. There's Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota. Let's see what else we got. There's so many. Oh, here it is. New York Yankees. New York Yankees, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Pride Month. What's another one? Let's get a couple more so y'all can all see this. No. Who is this? I don't know who that is. All right. Y'all get the point. But you look around on social media, you'll see so many of these. Miss Rachel, who does a popular TV, not TV, but YouTube channel for kids. She's bought into the Pride Month stuff and some other things as well. But it's become, so it went from acceptance to recognition. Recognize us now. Don't just accept us, recognize us. Then it's celebrate us. That's where we are now. Celebrate us. So now they get a whole month. They get celebrations. They get a parade. They get multiple parades. You have kids doing pride parades in school. You have teachers teaching this pride stuff in school. You have the rainbow flag getting co-opted to mean something that it does not absolutely does not mean. And now it has to be celebrated. Now you got all of these corporations and big organizations and well-known entities letting you know that they are celebrating, letting you know that we're on the right side of history by telling you about Pride Month, or the right side of current events, let's say, by talking about Pride Month. That's celebration. You know what the next step is? Next step is participation. That's next. Recognition, acceptance, recognition, celebration, participation. Step 4 is participation. Now, how are they going to get people to participate? If you're listening to this and you're a grown man or a grown woman and you're like, Dre, what the hell are you talking about participation? No way anybody's going to force me to participate in a Pride Month celebration or do things that will make me part of the Pride Month group. You are correct. They're not coming after adults. They're coming for your kids. That's the next step. All right. They're coming for your kids. The next step is participation. And the reason why the next step is participation, here's how we know. It's the reason why they're preaching it to kids. The reason they're preaching it to millennials and Gen Z is because they are moldable and malleable enough mentally that they can be taught that this is acceptable and this is okay. So you can't go to somebody who's 40 years old, 55 years old, 37 and get you to believe it if you never bought into it before. But if you're 17, maybe. If you're 7, absolutely. If you're 12, absolutely. They can teach you that, hey, maybe this is the way to go. And again, who's going to teach it? Who's the vehicles to teach this? Well, social media is one. The internet and social media is one. The big corporations that have big reach is another. The TV stuff that people watch or the content that people watch is another. And by the way, like the live, if you're on TikTok, we're at 12,000. Let's get to 15,000, please. That's another. And then your school teachers, the adults in authority. All right, these are your next ones. The adults in authority is the next one. If you're sending your kids to public school, you better be vetting those teachers. You better be vetting what's happening at those schools. Maybe even a private school, you better vet what's happening, because actually at any kind of school, because that means there's some adult who is not you and not the mother or father of your child is teaching your child during a time where they are very impressionable and their mind is open to what is given to it. You better be careful where you're sending your kids and who's talking to them. So this has become a month-long marketing blitz that demands celebration, not just tolerance. Again, tolerance, I'm okay with. Like, you want to do what you want to do it. Celebration being demanded, I'm not okay with. I'm not okay with demanding celebration. If you're on TikTok, please like the live. We are at about 12,000, almost 13. Let's get to 15,000, please, on TikTok. So LGBTQ, the group, they do exist. Do they have the right to live freely? Yes, they do. I just told you. Now, I live in South Florida. There's a bunch of them in this area, especially in Miami Beach, especially in South Beach, where people are generally open about being who they are. Fine. As a matter of fact, I rather, especially when it comes to men, like I'm from the city of Philadelphia. I remember living in Philadelphia and I used to sell gym memberships. And when you sold gym memberships, the place I was working, actually anywhere you work, they send you outside to do what they call prospecting. And prospecting is basically you walk up to random people on the street and try to engage them in a conversation about the gym and then hopefully get them to come to the gym and then sell them a gym membership. So it's basically getting it out the mud and creating your opportunities out of nothing. And I remember when I would be walking around in South Philadelphia or this area called Society Hill, I would be approaching random people, and some of the men that I would approach, they presented themselves just walking by them in the street. They seemed heterosexual men, because if they were showing as flamboyantly gay, I probably wouldn't have approached them. But they showed as heterosexual men. But then in later conversations, they would be like, I guess, closeted or in the closet gay guys. In a city like Philadelphia, I guess that's how it is. In big cities, I think that may be how a lot of men decide to operate. But down here in South Florida, especially in Miami Beach, men are open, and they're open about being gay. It's obvious. Like, you can see somebody across the street, like, oh, that guy's obviously gay. I'd rather be like that than someone being closeted and try to fool you. But anyway, they do exist. They have the right to live freely. But no group should be above critique or immune from pushback, especially when their agendas are being pushed into schools and into kids' content, which I just showed you. Sesame Street. I just showed you. Miss Rachel, very popular internet content creator person. And it seems she got a whole business around her things. And when I first came across Miss Rachel, I liked the stuff she was putting out. But Miss Rachel has taken she's decided to plant her flag on certain things that I ain't a fan of. And she's got the right to do what she wants to do. She's an adult. But my kid's not going to be watching this shit, because she's already planted her flag where she wants to plant it, and you got a right to do that. Pride Month is a time of community for many people who feel marginalized. We got any people who are part of the Pride Month celebration in here. You can probably co-sign that maybe you feel marginalized, or you have felt marginalized, or because it is still not super, widespread or just generally accepted socially, maybe in the community where you're from. You feel like Pride Month is finally your opportunity to express yourself, be yourself, and be not only tolerated, but celebrated and acknowledged for being who you want to be. I understand that that may be how you feel. At the same time, facts don't care about your feelings, which means what? If inclusion, quote unquote, means that the rest of us have to shut up and celebrate or participate, or else be labeled as a negative thing, that's not inclusion. What that is that's forced participation. And again, the participation doesn't necessarily mean you got to become part of the LGBTQ group. Forced participation is what I just showed you on social media. Forced participation is what I just showed you with the New York Yankees and the New York Knicks and all these other organizations. Let me see if I can I'm trying to find a way that I can just filter out the big organizations who posted about this, but I don't think there is a way to do so. That's participation. All right, the fact that the New York Yankees have to tell you they're celebrating Pride Month is participation. All right, that is participation. The governor of Minnesota telling you that Pride Month, you're welcome here if you celebrate Pride Month, that is forced participation, and it's worked. So we got to give credit to the LGBTQ community. They have done a great job of getting this accepted through the mainstream, to where you got a bunch of mainstream entities who are celebrating Pride Month, or at least they're virtue signaling that they're celebrating Pride Month. All right, this is forced, and this is not inclusion. All right, inclusion, first of all, I'm not even a fan of DEI as a general concept, because the world that I come from is the sports world, and the sports world is by definition exclusive. It's not inclusive, it is exclusive, because not everybody can get in the room. The value of a table is not one that everybody can sit at. The valuable table is the one that not everybody can get a seat at. Any table that anyone can sit at is not that valuable, because who cares about something that everybody has? Like, what's the value of a penny? It ain't worth much. But the value of $100 is worth more, because fewer people have $100 bills than have pennies. But anyway, inclusion does not mean everybody else has to shut up and just let you say whatever you want to say just because you exist and because you want to weaponize your feelings. Weaponizing feelings means, well, at some point, this group was once minimized. At some point, this group was not celebrated. At some point, this group was not tolerated. Same thing that black people can say, but you don't have to force whatever your group is now doing onto everybody else and force them to participate just because you feel like you have enough momentum to make people capitulate to what you want them to do. I'm not a fan of that. I do not celebrate this. So companies, these big entities, as I've already pointed out, Sesame Street, every pro sports team, showing support through rainbow logos and campaigns. I'm sure this gives a lot of validation to the people who are part of the LGBTQ group. If I was part of it, I would feel validated by that as well. The problem is this is fake. This is virtue signaling. That's what this is. These same companies won't do this in countries where it's illegal. You don't see them doing it in a lot of Arab countries. You don't see them doing this in those places because it wouldn't be allowed. All right, this is just brand optics. It is not It is not a reflection of these companies' true values. It's a reflection of let's do what we need to do to make sure that we win a brownie point with these groups and that group and that group. So while we're on the subject, let's talk about why that is. One thing that we do know is true is that the LGBTQ entity, let's just say, for lack of a better term, they do have purchasing power. They have purchasing power. And is the reason why they get these corporations to buy in, because they can sway public sentiment. They can sway on some level, maybe a local election. I'm not sure a national election, but they can sway things on these topics. This is one of the reasons why Donald Trump, even when he was running for president, he didn't press the gas super duper hard on certain things like boys playing in girls sport. He talked about it, but he didn't press the gas super hard. He didn't go too hard on it because he wanted to make sure he toed the line well enough to win the election. Then after winning the election, now he can go a little bit harder. That's the way politics works. In politics, sometimes you got to toe the line on the subject. You got to compromise a little bit on the point in order to get what you need done. And then once you got what you need done, then you can go a little bit harder on what you really want. All politicians do this. They all have to play this game. This is part of the deal. And this is just brand optics and is not a reflection of true values of any of these companies who are doing this. So some will say visibility saves lives and reduces the risk of someone taking their own life. So this is the emotional manipulation that you'll hear often from people who are supporters of not only the LGB. When LGB was around, okay, we knew about the LGB. All right, those are those people over there. They want to be LGB. Okay, cool. Is when the T started to get introduced and the T started to become popular. All right, that's when it really became a problem. And the reason why it became a problem is twofold. Number one, adult, and is often man to woman, is the T. The one that causes the most issues, the one that causes the most consternation is the man to woman T. The woman to man, I mean, I'm sure they exist. I'm sure there are plenty of them, but they don't become a threat because a person who's born as a woman is not a threat to a man. But a person who's born as a man is a threat to a woman, especially if they are now allowed to integrate themselves into spaces that were generally only for women, such as the women's locker room or women's bathroom or women's sports team. That can become a dangerous situation because now you have this man who was born as a man, who has the physiology of a man and the testosterone of a man, at least started out with it, now being allowed into a woman's only space. It's like allowing a fox into the hen house. Doesn't mean they all do it. They're all going to do something bad, but that introduces an element that previously did not exist. And it's the T group that really starts to create a challenge because that's the one-fold problem is on the adult side. The other side is now teaching kids that, hey, maybe who you were born as or quote unquote assigned at birth, which is a bullshit phrase, by the way. Assigned at birth is a bullshit phrase. And people started using that phrase to try to discredit the concept of you were born with a penis, which makes you a male, or you were born with a vagina, which makes you a female. That is a bullshit phrasing that people have come up with as a way to discredit basic biology. And there's a lot of argument about this. You get people who will twist you in circles arguing about this. If you're born with a male reproductive organ, you're a male. If you're born with a female reproductive organ, you are a female. Now, are there some who are born with neither or both? Sure, but they are so few and far between. Here's that phrase again. They are so few and far between that is not even something we need to create a huge distinction about because, again, they're few and far between. Almost everybody who's listening to me right now, you were born with one or the other. That's what you are. That is called an immutable characteristic. Now, there are some changeable characteristics. You could go from not having muscles to having muscles by going to the gym and working out. You could go from being fat to being skinny by doing a whole bunch of cardio and maybe watching what you eat. You can go from wearing a suit to wearing a t-shirt by just changing your clothes. There are some characteristics of yourself that you can change. You can go get a nose job. You can go get your ears pinned back. You can get a facial. You can get Botox injected into your forehead. You can get lip injections. You can get breast implants. You can get a BBL and make your ass bigger. There's a lot of things you can do to change the characteristics of who you are as a person. And there are some things that you cannot do to change your characteristics as a person. One of them is you cannot change from being a male to being a female. That is not a thing. Now, if you want to pretend, you can pretend anything you want. Again, if you have a 4-year-old child and they decide that they are a dinosaur, they can pretend to be a dinosaur and you can play along. But what we are not going to tolerate, let me say it again, what we are not going to tolerate, can we get the likes up on TikTok? We're at 19,000. Can we get the 25, please? Can we get the 25,000 likes on TikTok? Like the live. My moderators in here, please let people know we need them like the live. We're at 19,000. Let's get the 25. What we're not going to do is have an adult encourage a child that even though you were born as Michael, maybe you're not really Michael. Maybe what you were assigned at birth is not really who you are. You don't feel like you were born in the right body. You don't feel like you were born as the right person. You don't have to be Michael anymore if you don't want to. Maybe you can be Michelle. And what's crazy is that in certain states, I'm not sure this is true in Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz is. I'm using him as an example because I found him in this stream of things I was pointing out. That that in certain states, that if a child goes to school and they decide that they want to go from being Michael to Michelle, for example, that the teachers are not legally required to tell the parents that this is happening, which means Michael is at your home, but you're the parent. They're living under your roof. Michael goes to school as Michael and comes home as Michael, but while he's in school all day, he's actually Michelle. And the teachers and the students all know Michael as Michelle while he's in school. And all he does is go back to putting on a costume, quote unquote, of being Michael when he's around you, because he just doesn't want to tell you until I guess maybe he's old enough to be at his majority. And then he can go off and say, well, I've been Michelle for the last 6 years, mom and dad. Y'all just didn't know about it. I didn't think y'all would accept it. So I just been pretending around you all. But I'm truly Michelle. And now that I'm old enough to go live on my own, now I'm letting you know this is what I've been doing. And y'all didn't know anything. In the last 6 years, this is what's been going on. And the teachers are complicit in this because, again, there's laws that state they don't have to tell you as a parent that this is happening. This is just hijacking of parenting. That's what it is. It's hijacking parenting to do this to the parents through the kids. And this is, again, why I'll say for the third time here today, those of you who are sending your kids to school, you better be careful who you're sending your kids to. Because it might not just be the teachers. It might be the school district. It may be the governor. It may be the mayor, and it also may be the students that your kids are hanging around in school. Who are those kids and who are their parents? What if their parents are reckless? What if their parents have some ideas that you don't agree with, but those parents are teaching the kids that your kid is hanging with? So again, parents, do your jobs. Watch who your kids are hanging around because they're being influenced by this stuff. And you should all understand, all of us have been teenagers at some point. As teenagers, I can speak from this from a male perspective, but I'm sure it also applies to females, that we go through a period where when we were really young, we talked to our parents about everything and told them everything that was going on. Then when we get into those teen years, we go through a period where we don't tell our parents anything, where our parents have to kind of extract information and experiences out of us because we don't want to tell them about anything because we're going through just a growth phase. During that period, parents, you better find out what your kids are doing. Maybe you call it being intrusive, but you better find out, especially if you're sending your kids to a place that is in which they're dealing with people who may not have the same values as you. Now, if your kids end up with different ideas, depending on what those ideas are, fine. But again, if you're a parent and you raise your kids to be a certain way and you want your kids to be a certain way, have a certain worldview, how would it feel to send them somewhere that they all of a sudden have a differing worldview from yours? And you're like, how does this kid end up with a different worldview from mine when I took all this time to make sure I installed a certain worldview? Now they think differently. Would that be okay? It's like it undid all your work because you weren't paying attention. I put this on the parent. So some say this visibility saves lives and reduces risk of losing a child. So this is where you get someone saying, would you rather have let's say you have a boy and they say, would you rather have a living girl, because that boy wants to become a girl. Would you rather have a living girl, mom and dad, or would you rather have a deceased boy? And this is an emotional manipulation. That's what this is, emotional manipulation. And then they'll use the example of others who, for whatever reason, weren't allowed, I guess, to transition. And they took their own lives. And then they say, well, because you wouldn't let your kid transition, then you are complicit in this kid losing their life. I say bullshit. No, I'm not. I would say, no, that's not true. The reason why who's complicit in that kid losing their life is the person who taught them that even though you were born with a male reproductive organ, you could actually be a female. That's the person who's responsible, because you warped this kid's brain into thinking that something that is an immutable characteristic is a changeable characteristic. That is not a malleable characteristic, changing who you actually are from a girl to a boy or a girl to a boy. It's not a real thing. And let's get the likes up to 30,000 on TikTok, please. So this does not justify pushing any type of graphic sexual content into mainstream advertising. This applies to the adults, into kids' books or parades with nudity in broad daylight. That's what's happening at these pride parades. Any of you ever seen one? I've never seen one in person, but at these parades, what I've seen in video is that you have adults pushing graphic sexual content, and they're not doing it just for the adults. Again, for the adults, it's entertainment. Where if you're an adult and you go to a pride parade and you want to see men walking around with their genitalia out, or even women walking around with their genitalia out, fine, if that's what you're into. Again, do what you want to do. However, the purpose of the parade is not adults entertaining adults. The purpose of the parade is influencing the youth. That's the purpose of it. We want to influence the youth to let them know that if you happen to feel different and you might want to join our group, it's okay, because look at how much we're being celebrated. Look, the New York Yankees are talking about us. Mariah Carey is celebrating us. Sesame Street is talking about us. Miss Rachel is celebrating us. All we're doing is letting you know, 10-year-old, that if you want to be part of our group, you will be accepted, because look at how much we're being accepted right now. They're not trying to influence a 35-year-old. They're trying to influence the 5-year-olds. That's what they're trying to do. They don't say that explicitly. Most of them won't say that explicitly, because if they said it explicitly, they'd be basically showing their hand and they would get beat back for doing that. But if that's the implicit message and they don't say it out loud, they can sneak it in, because there are so many adults out here these days. And I'm talking specifically to the men in society, especially in the United States of America, who don't have the balls to call out the bullshit. And this is the reason why it starts to get accepted. If more men had the balls to call out the bullshit, I wouldn't have to talk about this. It's the men not having the balls to call it out that allows this stuff to start seeping in. And then when it comes to somebody's front door, now all of a sudden it's a controversy. All of a sudden it's an emergency. No, it was an emergency a long time ago when you didn't have the balls to say anything. So some say that pride is all about embracing identity. I would agree. I agree with this. So some say that this whole concept of pride, quote unquote pride, and Pride Month is all about someone embracing their identity, or the identity that they either have chosen on purpose, consciously, or an identity that they always were. They just had to find the right way to name themselves or identify themselves. This the born this way idea. I'm not even here to argue that. Some say that you can be born this way and you just had to find out an outlet for it. So you were born as a boy, but you always felt like you were a boy. You are a girl in a boy's body, right? Isn't that what some people say? So even though I was born with a male reproductive organ, I've always felt like I was a woman. And the pride community, LGBTQ community, or this book that I read or this movie that I watched, it showed me that, oh, there are other people who feel this way as well. Then here's what you can do when you feel this way. And now I feel more like myself because I've done this. There are some people who say it's all about embracing that identity. Do I agree with that being one of the reasons why it exists? Yes. Is that one of the reasons why it exists? Yes, it is. However, the pushback is, when identity turns into ideology and demands compliance, it becomes a political weapon. That's not even a celebration. It's going further. See, it's become an ideology. What's the difference? The difference is now you have a child who was born as a boy with a reproductive organ, going to school every day, normal. And then all of a sudden, a teacher introduces a book or a concept or a lecture in class that says, hey, did all of you 8-year-olds know that just because you were born in the body of a boy or a girl doesn't mean you're actually a boy or a girl? Did any of you know this? Did you know that maybe you're not actually a girl? Maybe you were always a boy and you were just born in the wrong body. All right, so your creator just messed up. Your creator messed up the purchase order. So you were born in a girl's body, but you're actually supposed to be a boy. So they messed up. Your creator messed up. So what we're going to do, us mere mortals down here on earth, we're going to fix that by changing you from being a girl to being a boy. That's what we're going to do. We're going to fix what the creator messed up. Now, do y'all understand that this is the message? And I cram to understand how anybody can make logical sense of this. And there's no way to make logical sense of it. So this is the reason why you get the emotional arguments. And I'm sure there are some happening in my comments right now. We're going to get to the comments in a minute. But just like the live, we're at 33,000. Can we get to 35,000, please? Can we get to 35,000 likes here? Or want to be at 50,000 by the time we get to about 10 minutes from now. So this identity has turned into ideology. So people are just trying to they're trying to mainstream this concept and demanding compliance. Like, you have to go along with this. This is where I believe this in the state of Minnesota as well. Somebody can tell me if I got this right, fact check me, that in Minnesota, under Tim Walz, the guy who ran for VP with Kamala Harris, that if a child wants to transition and the parents are not okay with the kid transitioning, the kid can basically apply to the state for basically what it becomes asylum. And the state can take that kid away from the parents because the parents are denying that kid their right to be who they want to be, live how they want to live. Is that true? Anybody know that this is true in the state of Minnesota? I believe I heard this about Minnesota while Tim Walz was running as the running mate to Kamala Harris, that if the kid wants to transition and the parents say no, the kid can go to the state, kind of like the Bureau of Child Welfare, basically CPS. They can go to the state and say, hey, my parents won't let me transition, and you feel unsafe in that environment, and the state, the social workers can take your kid away from you simply because you're not providing a safe environment for the kid. And the lack of safe environment is all based on the kid is a boy and wants to be a girl. If you won't allow it, they'll take your kid away. So some saying not true, some saying it is true. So here we go. Let's find out. All right, let's find out. Let's get to the bottom of this one. Is it true that in the state of Minnesota or in any other state in America that a child couldn't apply to the state or welfare department for being taken away from their parents if the child wants to transition from boy to girl or girl to boy and the parents will not allow it? Is it true that the state can come and take that child away from the parent for doing this? And if so, in what states is this allowed? So let's find out, folks. I'm going to fact check myself right here. As long as we agree that whatever I find are the facts. As I've already told you all in the past, facts don't matter. But we're going to find out what the facts are here anyway. So in certain states, including Minnesota, laws have been enacted that allow minors under age 18 to seek gender-affirming care without parental consent. Let me say that sentence one more time. In certain U.S. states, including Minnesota, laws have been enacted that allow a minor, that means you're a 13-year-old child, they can go get gender-affirming care, it sounds really good, but it's not good, without parental consent. That means your child can go get some type of operation done on themselves without you knowing about it, and they're 12 years old. And it can lead to state intervention in custody matters if parents oppose the care. So if the parents say no and the kid says yes, the kid can get the state involved. How do they get the state involved? Usually going through a teacher who taught them this bullshit from the beginning. So again, you parents, be careful where you're sending your kids. So in Minnesota, they have a refuge law. The T refuge law, which provides protections for minors seeking gender-affirming care. A court in Minnesota can assert emergency jurisdiction over a child who cannot get gender-affirming health care elsewhere. So basically, you can come to Minnesota. You can flee to the state of Minnesota and get gender-affirming care because you couldn't get it in Florida or Texas, for example. So the law states that the presence of a child in Minnesota for the purpose of gender-affirming health care is sufficient to meet requirements for the state to make custody determinations. Let me say that one more time. I want to make sure y'all got it. They said in the state of Minnesota, if a child is there, if you're in Minnesota, you don't have to be from there, but if you're in the state and you're there to get gender-affirming health care, that is enough to meet the requirements for the state to make a custody determination. In other words, let me give you a hypothetical. Your child is from Florida. They're from Tampa Bay. They somehow, some way end up in Minneapolis. I don't know, Minnesota. They took a flight. Somehow they're in Minnesota. They drove there, took a Greyhound bus. The state says that if the kid states that the reason I'm here is to get gender-affirming care, the state can then, under that pretense, they can make a decision about custody of that kid without you even being involved, just because they're there in the state of Minnesota. That's the law under the state of Minnesota, under Governor Tim Walz. Other states have similar protections. California has one. The state of Washington has one. The state of New York has one. Now, states have opposing stances. Florida has an opposing stance, which you can not do this. The state can take temporary custody of children who have received or are at risk of receiving gender-affirming care. So in other words, the state of Florida, they'll take your kids away if your kid is even trying to do this. They'll take the kid from you so that you don't allow your kid to do it. Whereas in the state of Minnesota, they'll take the kid from you if you don't allow the kid to do it. This is the beauty of the United States. Every state has their own laws. In the state of Texas, the Family and Protective Services can investigate a parent for child abuse if they try to get their kid gender affirming care. So states of Florida and Texas have the exact opposite laws of the state of Minnesota. So this is happening in the United States of America right now, in case any of you didn't know. So supporters say that this whole concept of pride is no different than other awareness months. So whatever months have awareness. So let's say you got Black History Month. That's awareness of the history of Black people. They say is no different than just the awareness of LGBTQ people. I disagree, because Black History Month is not asking people necessarily to celebrate Black people. And if you don't, then you're doing something wrong. I don't see that. Now, are there entities that point out and celebrate and acknowledge Black History Month? Yes, there are. But do Black people go running around and saying, hey, you didn't make a post about Black History Month. What's wrong? What's your problem with Black people? Are you racist? Generally, you don't see that. You just see people talking about Black History Month if they want to talk about it. And if somebody doesn't want to talk about it, so what? And I don't see too many Black History Month parades of people saying, hey, we want to make sure we influence the kids to know about Black History Month. I mean, you get some of that when it comes to the books and the courses and the race hustlers and all of those things. But are they trying to force participation? My answer is not really. Not nearly on the level of the LGBTQ. Not nearly on the level, because you can't make a white child become Black. Right? That ain't really a thing right now. Maybe it will be 1 in 10 years. There's no such thing as a white kid saying, well, you know what? I was born the wrong skin color. So you know what? Even though I'm white, I'm actually Black. Now, I know we've had a few instances of people trying to do this. But again, few and far between, they get laughed out of the room for even trying, especially when they get exposed. They get clowned for even trying. But a boy saying that I'm a girl, they're not getting clowned. They're being accepted and celebrated, and they're getting parades for themselves when they do this. That's the difference. So no, it is not the same thing. I say, show me another group that gets an entire month, corporate backing, school participation, public parades, flags on government buildings, and political immunity from criticism. Name one. Damn sure ain't Black people. Let me say that list one more time. Show me a group. Let's just use Black people, because Black people are allegedly supposed to be just as oppressed as the LGBTQ. And this is how LGBTQ expertly took all of the benefits that were supposed to go to Black people based on civil rights and all that stuff. And LGBTQ is basically hijacked it. They hijacked DEI, they hijacked affirmative action, and they hijacked civil rights and took it from Black people and these Black leaders who are supposed to be running this. I don't know how y'all allowed this to happen, but this happened. Black History Month, or Black people in general, we get in a month. We do get that. Do we get corporate backing? In some ways, but a lot of people say DEI and affirmative action benefited white people and white females more than benefited Black people. So I wouldn't call it corporate backing. Do we get school participation? Not really. Do we get public parades? Hell no. Are there parades? Yes. But like this? Hell no. Flags on government buildings? No. Do we get that? No. And political immunity from criticism? Hell no. All right. Black people get criticized all the time politically. So no. What group is getting this? There isn't one. Pride Month empowers the LGBTQ youth to feel accepted. That's what the supporters of Pride Month said. It allows the LGBTQ youth to feel accepted. First of all, how the hell does a youth know that they're even part of the group? How do they even find out? How's the youth even find out? Now, here's what I would understand. If, let's say, a young man is Michael, and his whole life he feels a little bit different. He doesn't feel necessarily attracted to women, or attracted to girls, even though that it appears socially that's what he's supposed to be. And he likes to hang with the girls and play with Barbies and do jump rope instead of hanging with the boys and being all rough and playing sports. He just doesn't seem to identify. Maybe even gets ridiculed by the other boys as that guy might be gay, or even by other girls as he might be gay. And he's kind of confused about himself his whole life. And then when he's 23, he's at college or he just got out of school and he realizes, oh, maybe I'm gay, and he comes out as gay and now he lives the rest of his life as gay. If that happens, fine. But here's what I'm not okay with. Michael is 8 years old. And for some reason, he may feel a little awkward in his growing body and in his growing development. Thank you for getting us to 50K likes on TikTok. Can we get this 55, please? 55K likes, please, on TikTok. In his growing development, he's confused about himself. He's not mature enough to even ask the questions for himself about who he is and where he's going. He's only 8 years old. But in third grade, he goes to the school library and there's a human sexuality section, and he starts reading books with the rainbow flag on it. And the books start to influence him. And then the teacher adds on to that influence and starts teaching him, hey, maybe you are not a boy, but you're actually a girl. Maybe you're not attracted to girls, you're attracted to boys. But at 8 years old, he's too young to decide for himself. So it's really the adults who are driving the thought process of the kid. It's not the kid driving it on their own. See, if Michael is 23 and decides this is who he is, well, you're an adult. Do what you want to do. If you end up being wrong, you're wrong. But at least you can say, I own my decision as an adult. But if I'm 8 years old or I'm 13 or I'm 12 and some adult is telling me this, because I can't think for myself yet, not fully, then the adult is telling me this, that is indoctrination. That is not a person deciding on their own volition. That's not okay. So saying that it makes LGBTQ youth feel accepted, first of all, how do you become an LGBTQ youth in the first damn place is the question that actually needs to be asked. Not how do we make them feel accepted? How did you become one? So acceptance shouldn't come at the expense of truth, boundaries, or again, biological reality being replaced with feelings. And this is the crux of the argument on one level when it comes to the whole concept of pride. Oh, well, it's how someone feels. Forget how you feel. Again, feelings don't care about facts, or facts don't care about feelings. Actually, both are true. So some say celebrating pride is seen as compassionate. But yes, I agree. It is seen as compassionate. However, true compassion doesn't mean telling somebody a lie or going along with a lie that somebody else told, or confusing children who can't think for themselves, or punishing dissenters. All right, it tells the truth and lets people decide for themselves what the truth is. And adults teach truth to their children. Adults teach truth to their children. Parents out there, I'm saying this for the 10th time here today. You are responsible. If your kid ends up buying into one of these ideologies under your nose, then you're responsible because you weren't doing your job. You weren't paying attention to who they were hanging with, and they end up getting influenced on some nonsense. You didn't do your job. That's on the parents. I'm looking at you, mom and dad. I'm not even looking at the teacher because the teacher was a weirdo already. The teacher was a weirdo last year and the year before that and the year before that. Yet you sent your kids to the school with that teacher. What are you doing? You're the parent. You're responsible. That's not their fault. That's your fault. And if your child is hanging out with some weirdo kids who influence your kid to do something dumb, and now your kid is going against the grain of what you taught in your house, you are responsible because you aren't vetting the association that your kid has. If your kid is living under your roof, you are responsible for their associations. You're responsible for what they're taking in. You're responsible for what they are thinking and believing. You're responsible for their worldview. So if any of those end up going against the grain of what you want installed in that child, you as a parent have dropped the ball. You have failed. Even though it's a complete weirdo who got them on the nonsense, again, how'd they get around the weirdo? You let them. You let that happen. I'll put this on the parents, 100%. So some cities say they celebrate pride with joy and unity. Well, I do believe in the pride parades. People look like they're having fun, and it looks like they're having a way to unite with each other. Do I agree that that's what's happening? Yes, that's happening. However, others turn it into chaotic and hypersexual street parades where kids are present, and that's indefensible no matter your politics. Only defense I have of it, if I was part of the LGBTQ group and there's a bunch of kids at our parade and we're showing graphic sexual stuff and someone criticized me and said, hey, why are you showing this graphic sexual stuff to kids? I would say a better question is, why the hell are these kids at the parade? That'd be the question. And that's actually my actual question, even though I'm not part of the rainbow flag group. If you have an issue with what gets shown at the pride parade, the way that people are parading themselves around and showing themselves to be hypersexual, and you don't want your kids seeing that, keep your kids the hell away from that parade. Simple as that. Now, some of you may say, well, they're out in public, so I should be able to go out in public and not have to see that stuff. Generally, I agree, but at the same time, let's keep it real. All right, where any of you live, is there some type of ghetto or slum or beat down area of town that you know about that ain't more than a 30-minute drive away from where you live? Almost all of you probably within, let me just say city people. You live in a city. You are no more than 30 minutes of driving away from a ghetto or a slum or a really beat down part of town that you don't live in, that you have every opportunity to avoid going into. So this whole concept of, well, these people are out in public. So what? Now, the ghetto is out in public. You don't just go walk through the ghetto every day with your kids, do you? Not if you don't have to. You don't do that. So if the pride parade is showing graphic sexual things and you don't want your kids to see it, then stay away from the parade, at least for that day. It ain't like they're having a parade every day. All right. The pride parade might be one parade all month. All right, they got a whole month, but they only get one parade. So you can just stay away from the parade. When I lived in South Beach, they had announcements that the Pride Parade is coming. I said, okay, I'm not going to the beach that day. And not because I was afraid of what I was going to see, not because I'm phobic in any way, shape, or form. What I was thinking about is that there's a whole bunch of flamboyantly gay dudes walking around South Beach, and on that day, there's going to be a whole bunch more of them. And if I'm walking around there, they might think that I am part of this, and I don't want to be confused for anything that I'm not. So I'll just stay away from the beach that day. I'll go do something else. And that's exactly what I did. So I get this, but parents, y'all responsible. How are your kids seeing graphic sexual material? What are you doing? If your kids are looking at graphic sexual material on the internet, why are you letting them do it? Your kids are looking at graphic sexual material in a book. Why are you letting them read the book? If they're seeing graphic sexual material out in public, why are you letting your kids be in that place where that's happening? You need to be vetting every single thing your kid is coming across before they come across it. If they're learning it on their own without you, you are not doing your job. Advocates say that pride is more needed than ever. This is a bullshit point. Pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. It is not more needed than ever. Again, this is a word that was hijacked from what it originally meant to mean this is somehow supposed to be some kind of happiness thing. The rainbow flag was originally a signal from God that I will never flood the earth and wipe everything out again. It was hijacked to mean, oh, this is representative of something that is said in the Bible as is an abomination. All of this is a complete abomination, all of it. And why it's being celebrated by a whole bunch of people is not because a whole bunch of people have all of a sudden joined the group. It's because we have a whole bunch of cowards in our society. I did a 4-part series on my podcast. It's called Work on Your Game. Comes out every day. I said why Western society is collapsing. Number one reason why Western society is collapsing is because we have a whole bunch of pussy men who have no balls, and they're allowing this nonsense complicitly by not saying anything to push back against it. Period. The collapsing of Western society is not because of the women or the children. It is because of the men. And if men would step up and do their job, all the bullshit you see in society today would go away relatively quickly. If everybody just did their job, every man did their job. And doing your job doesn't mean you got to do a live stream and talk about these things. But if and when you come across some nonsense, you got to be willing to call out the nonsense. Who are you afraid to call out? You're afraid to call out a woman and you call yourself a man? You're afraid to call out a child and you're a man? Who are you afraid to call out? If every man is doing their job, the only people you got to call out are the women and the children. All right, their natural role is to listen to what you're saying. So if you would just step into your fucking role and play your fucking job, there's no problem. Who are you afraid of? Who's going to push back against you? This is the part that doesn't make any sense to me. So if your movement requires silencing opposition or brainwashing children or guilt tripping everyone into participation, that is not pride. That is propaganda. That's what it actually is. That's propaganda. Because you're forcing everybody to participate. You don't allow anyone to speak up against you. And then you're going after the children who can't defend. They can't fend for themselves consciously and mentally or intellectually. And then you guilt trip anyone who is not paying attention or not participating. Again, that's propaganda. That's what it is. You're propagandizing your movement to make everybody feel guilty for not getting involved in what you're doing. Again, it's tolerance was first. Then it was acceptance. Tolerance and acceptance. Then it was acknowledgement. Then now it's celebration. Next is participation. And participation doesn't mean you and I if you're an adult. What it means is the next wave of people, which is your kids. That's why it is a big deal. All that being said, we're going to get into the questions and commentary in one moment. I do need to take a quick bathroom break. It's going to take me 90 seconds. So let me see if I can find something that I can play for you all. I got to be careful putting my own stuff. I'll put my own stuff up here. I won't put anything from social media because I've tried to post a couple things from social media and I got blowback from TikTok saying don't do that. So what I'll do is play something from my show. It's called Work on Your Game. I have an episode called Why I Like Proving People Wrong on the Internet. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. Give me 90 seconds and I'll be right back. 90 seconds, we're going to get to the comments. So let's get to 65,000 likes while I'm taking this quick restroom break. And then we're going to get to the comments. Give me 90 seconds. I'll be right back.
But we'll come to that on another day. The point is not just to have the answer. The point is how to come to the answer. What's your reason for having that answer? It's the same way that I think it speaks to this very day, which I think most of you can tell. Even though I was not that good of a math student in school. You want 24/7 access to my mindset, strategy, and business advice? I built Dre GPT 1.0, an AI coach trained on everything I've ever said. It's free, it's smart, and you can go start using it right now at dreallday.com/AI. That's dreallday.com/AI. Link is in the description. Go use it right now. Most people never make it to the third day. They quit, stall out, or get distracted before they even get that far. You, however, are not most people. So since I know you're serious about your success, go grab a copy of my new book called The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs, completely for free, by going to thirddaybook.com. Just cover the shipping and we'll send you the book. High-level discipline, professional-level performance, it starts right here. Thirddaybook.com. Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is why I prove people wrong on the internet. Number 2, it sharpens my argumentation skills. And when I say argumentation, I don't necessarily mean a back and forth verbal or textual conflict with another person on the internet. Argumentation can simply be somebody says something on social and I respond to it, and that's the end of the exchange. They don't say anything back directly to me. I don't say anything else to them, but I am posing an argument in response to their point. They pose an argument, whatever theirs.
All right, let's get to it. I don't see Rumble Studio didn't give me any comments. I don't see any on Facebook. Can't see LinkedIn. Let me address Instagram, then we'll go over to TikTok. So on Instagram, Clark Brown said they are trying to teach 5-year-olds that it's normal and accepted. They're not trying, they're doing it. Clark Brown 3, they're not trying. They are succeeding. Okay, Wire, okay, where? Good morning to you. Clark Brown said, Trump said that if you are a teacher that teaches that rhetoric to students, you'll be fired and prosecuted. Yeah, he says that. The thing is, he can't enact that because that's at the state level, not the federal level. But he's getting the point out there. That's what he's really trying to do, is just control the messaging. Ohio J said, God makes no mistakes till he puts a boy in a girl's body and vice versa. But I'm wrong when I call out people's BS about this. Also, I don't know about the rainbow till today. Thanks for the info. You're welcome. Will Viles said, I believe that creation is a miracle. Both men and women are unique and wonderful. There's so much beauty in our differences and strengths. How can one not look around the world and feel your comment got cut off? And all right, let's see what we got going on TikTok. Y'all can tell me what I got wrong here today, if anything. Of course, we know the answer is absolutely nothing, but maybe some people disagree. So I'm trying to get to the other side of the comments here, but I can't, for whatever reason, not letting me do it here today. I was able to do it yesterday. I mean, the last time I was live, which was Friday, but it's not letting me scroll over there. But we can still get to what we get to. While we're getting to the comments, folks, so let me remind you all, I'm reading from the top of the comments. So if you're leaving a comment while I'm talking and answering these questions, don't think I'm ignoring you. I'm actually reading from the top. So Justice for All said, what are your credentials for this advice? Great question. Answer is I turned on my camera and I started speaking. So my credentials for sharing what I'm sharing, I didn't actually offer any advice. What I'm offering is an opinion. My credentials for offering my opinion are the same as your credentials for not offering yours. It's the fact that I turned on my camera. Birds Are Me said, be afraid of public school plus academia. Yeah, you don't have to be afraid of it. You just got to be aware that it exists and be careful what you're taking from there and who you're sending there, is what I would say. Billy W., good morning. Jenna Neal said, parents are not hyper involved. They are absent in many of these cases. Yes, I would agree. Sonia said, you don't need credentials when speaking facts. No, you don't need credentials to do anything, generally speaking. The biggest credential/qualification any person needs to do something is to actually start doing it. So any of you who's asking that question, there's your answer. Reciprocal Terror said, taking their lives after transition is higher, actually. Okay, fair enough point. Thank you for sharing that. Clean Warrior said, it's more that happens there. It's like bringing a whole bunch of things there. What are you talking about? Tristan said, I went one time to the village in NY. It was scary. I would think so. New York's probably scarier than Miami. Jenna said, the scary part is irreversible damage the kids are doing to their bodies that have health risks. Yes, the thing is you can't undo it. Once you do it, it's pretty much done. That's what I've heard. Clean Warrior says, what's crazy is that more people get HIV within a month. I didn't know about that. It's child trauma that they've been through. I've heard that many times. Queen said, how you may feel is not how I may feel. Okay. And what's your point? Jenna said, if our food is filled with hormone blockers, no wonder the kids are hormonal or suffering. Yeah, it depends on what kind of food. NJ Mom says, how does the creator mess up? Yeah, it's a good question. Which is what Ohio J said over here on Instagram. Nobody says the creator messed up until we get to this topic. Jenna, is the chemicals is definitely a part of it, depending on what people are eating. Daniel said that is not the message. That is a straight up lie. What are you responding to, Daniel? If you tell me what you're responding to, then give me your actual. What did I get wrong? Tell me what it is. So, reciprocal terror said that's right. The state considers this abuse. Yes, they do, according to the law that I just read about. Clean Warrior said Trump needs to clean all of that up. Well, he can't. There's only certain things he can do at the federal level, but these things I was describing is at the state level. So this is state by state. It's basically who you vote for in your elections. Trump can't control that. But Heck said in Colorado, parents can lose rights for not supporting a child's transition. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't read off every state there, but every state has their own laws on this. 666 said Christians caring about facts is funny. I don't know who that's referring to. The PR pinup said that's not what that means. Okay, so when y'all use these terms, I don't know what you're responding to, so you got to give me context. Marky Man said California is doing it. Yes, California is one of the states I mentioned. Sonia says someone with 666 is their profile, right? PR said children do not get surgery for gender affirmation. I didn't mention the word surgery one time. Traditional said, I think Trump is blocking this. Well, there's only certain things he can block because he doesn't have say over what happens at the state level. He can only control what happens at the federal level. We're at 65,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 70K, please? By the way, you want to get a free copy of my book called The Third Day. Is this book right here, this red book. You get a free copy of this. It's all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. Go to that link right there, thirddaybook.com. Kaylin Rose says, but then me as a parent will have to be the one to take care of them. Well, Kaylin, that's kind of your job. Due respect. And doesn't mean you had to do everything, but it does mean that you need to vet everywhere you're sending your kids and everyone who is influencing your kids. That's the job of a parent. John Bowser said, how anyone would think that's okay to have a child make that decision is disturbing. Well, John, it's time to get disturbed because this is happening. It's happening a lot. Maybe not as much as social media makes people possibly believe, but it is happening. It's becoming more popular. We're at 65,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 70, please? Person 123 said, just chaperoned a senior field trip. Teens 17 and 19, and they were not allowed to go near water. Why is that? Why couldn't they go near water? Melanie said, all blue states. Surprised. No, I'm not surprised. That's pretty much where we are right now. Jenna says, but won't take kids away that are being physically abused or neglected or emotionally abused. Well, yeah, it's possible. Possibly you got that right. Chill for real estate. Yes, our babies are under attack. Generally, control over their minds. That's what's being attacked right now. Person said, teens not allowed to go near water on a field trip, but the teachers support gender affirming care. Okay, I get what you're saying. Queen said, LGB want people to accept it, but people don't want accept leave people alone. Yeah, generally. K-Bose Radio said, this person is showing you that there is no excuse for ignorance of the laws of this nation. Now, are you agreeing with me or disagreeing with me? Queen Warrior said, what's crazy is that if you don't agree with the agenda, it's called ignorance. Well, everybody throws the word ignorance out when they hear something they don't like. So you just saw somebody do it. 666 is the straw man of the day. So the straw man of the day says the host is anti-racism but pro-homophobia with a question mark. How am I anti-racism? I didn't say I was anti-racism. I don't know where you got that from, but pro-homophobia also didn't say that either. So you basically took something that you thought you heard me say, you rephrased it into something that I didn't say, and then posed it as a question as if it's something that I need to defend when I didn't even say it. So you get the straw man of the day, this person, and now you got to bring some more substance in your future commentary or you will be either ignored or removed. Those are the only two options you got left. PR Pinup said black people got some rights because of LGBTQ people. PR Pinup bullshit FOH. No, we didn't. Black people got rights because we went through the civil rights movement and we paid for those rights. LGBTQ did not help us get rights. We helped them get rights. Black people got rights, and then the LGBTQ said, hey, we are minorities too. We should get some of the same protections that you're giving to black people. And the government said, okay, then let's add the LGBTQ in on some of the things we're also giving to black people. And black people allowed the LGBTQ to hijack that momentum that was created by black people and paid for by black people. And now LGBTQ, because they were more organized and had a better strategy, they've been able to create more openings and rights, so to speak, for themselves than even black people were able to get. And they're just more structured moving forward, which is why they're picking up steam and why black people seem to have things that allegedly were for us, DEI, going more to white people and even having those rolled back because black people just didn't have the proper strategy. But for your whole concept of black people got rights because of LGBTQ is complete bullshit and not true. Queen Warrior said, yes, that's true. Dally said, Dre, you have a ton of straw mans in the comments today. Yeah, I'm noticing a couple of them. I ain't going to read them all. Holly Box said, I knew when I was 6. That's how. You knew what? What did you know when you were 6? Queen Warrior said, my brother knew he was when he was young because he saw my parents, which was trauma. Knew he was what? LGBTQ? Okay. Is he still that to this day? Holly said, how dare you learn things about yourself? Straw man number 2 goes to Holly Box Springs. She said, how dare you learn things about yourself? So straw man number 2 of the day by Holly Box Springs. And she is positing that learning things about yourself, and no matter what those things are, no matter who taught you, and no matter how you frame the learning, just because someone put something in your head does not mean you're learning. Somebody could put some nonsense in my head. Doesn't mean I'm learning because I don't want to accept that information. And she's saying it, she's framing it as if in a sarcastic way. She's using sarcasm here as her straw man. Well put together, Howie, but a straw man nonetheless. Shell for real estate, good morning. Little guy said, if the kid says they're straight, would you correct them the same way? What do you mean? I didn't offer any correction, but what are you asking? I need more context of your comment. Howie said, this is silly, speaking not from experience. Experience of what? Howie, depends on what type of experience we're talking. Little guy said, you don't know any facts, though. Well, as I've told you all every single day in these live streams, facts don't matter. Anybody can access facts through their phone within 30 seconds. So knowing, quote unquote, knowing facts does not really have any value. That's the reason why facts don't matter nearly as much as they used to. And whatever facts you are referring to, why don't you give us a few of those facts? I guarantee you not everybody in this room is going to agree with your facts. So that's the reason why facts don't matter also, is because even if you present, quote unquote, facts, no one has to agree with you or accept your facts if they don't want to. Howie said, you're speaking to speak. Well, motherfucker, what do you think I'm doing? This is what a live stream is about. I'm supposed to be speaking. What should I do? Sit here and look at you? That's the very point. You're commenting the comment. I mean, what are you doing? Barbie said, always good to hear real factual opinions in the morning. Well, thank you, Barbie. Scroot said, the parents and the pastors may think the world is flat. Is the world flat? Is that the best you could come up with, Scroot 328? You left that comment, and I'm reading it, and that's the best you could come up with, really? So this is straw man in the day, number 3. Scroot 328 said, the parents and the pastors may think the world is flat. Is the world flat? I'm not even going to have to respond to that, but I will point out as a straw man. Jenna Neal said, most parents have no interaction with the kids. It's crazy. Yeah, that happens with a lot of parents, and that still becomes their responsibility. Sonia Pernetti, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Shell for real estate. I had to argue with 2 grown women who convinced my child she didn't have to listen to me. How'd they do that? How were they able to pull that off? Shell is the question. KBOS says, anytime you see people dance around to avoid facts. Okay, so I see a bunch of you are still stuck on this concept of facts. Facts don't matter. So any of you who goes into a conversation or leaves a comment on a subject talking about facts as if that means you're going to get people to see things your way, I have a question for you. How is that working for you? Trying to convince people with facts is a failing strategy. So a bunch of you need to catch up. Shell said they have to go to school, Dre, not fair. Okay, who's the teachers? It's not going to school that's a bad thing. I went to school. I went to public school in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then I went to college. I went to school and I got a degree. It's who are the people teaching your kids is what you need to vet. It's not that they don't go to school at all. I am an advocate for homeschooling. However, I was not homeschooled. And when I was going to public school, my mother was up at the school and she knew who the teachers were and the teachers knew who she was. She was on top of that shit because anything that was not the way she wanted to go, she was going to do something about it. That's what an engaged parent does. It's not just send them to school and whatever happens, happens. All right, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable for a parent to. That's not an acceptable mindset of a parent. Britt said his own parents. Yes, it is. Little guy said you have a negative outlook regardless of the facts. A negative outlook on what? On certain things, I do have a negative outlook. On certain things, I got a positive outlook. On certain things, I have a neutral outlook. So just having a negative outlook as a general point doesn't necessarily make somebody wrong. You may have a negative outlook on over consuming alcohol. Does that make you wrong? No, it's probably a good idea. So we're at 72,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 75, please? Fan club, thanks for completing the first days of Club Quest here today. Appreciate you all. Jenna Neal says, shots and blue and red lights, we know what streets to avoid. Yes, exactly. Barbie said, where I live in Pennsylvania, the cops shut it right down. They'll arrest people for it immediately. Where in PA are you at, Barbie? I'm from Philadelphia, PA. So shout out to all my people in Pennsylvania. Michelle for real estate, thank you. Barbie said, I used to go before I had kids just because of my gay friends. It's fine for adults. If adults want to go and do whatever you want to do, go do what you want to do. But don't push the kids into it. Elena Minton said, so you're condoning. I don't know what you're responding to, Elena. I need context. When y'all leave comments here on TikTok, you got to tell me what you're responding to, because by the time I see your comment, I'm already past the thing that you're responding to. Queen said, I raised my kids to never accept that behavior. Well, good. User said, you're right, sir, and the corruption too. Barbie said, I still go to them if I didn't have kids. That's fine. I mean, you're an adult. Do whatever you want. K-Bo said, just because people don't accept your kind does not make them phobic. We just don't care about you. As a general point, K-Bo, I agree with that, what you said there. People not accepting, as long as they're not doing anything to antagonize you or go against you, they just say, hey, I'm just not a fan of this, and you are a fan of it, and y'all are over there, and they're over here, then nobody's hurt in that situation. That is fine. Mr. Battle said, one of the 7 deadly sins. That's what's up. Yeah, well, I didn't make that up. It's true. Jenna said, if it's collapsing because of men, maybe it's an epidemic. We have a hormonal imbalance problem. I don't know about all that, Jenna. I think it's just a bunch of men are pussies. I think let's make it more simple. I don't think it's a chemical thing. It's just a bunch of men have no balls. That's what actually is happening. Tony Soprano said, bro is making some okay points. Now he's just jumped off the deep end. Well, if you disagree with me, tell me what you disagree with. Don't be passive aggressive. I don't respect passive aggression coming from males. You sound like you're a man. So if you disagree with something that I said, tell me exactly what you disagree with and then correct me. But passive aggression is for women and children. Shell said, just had to explain that to my daughter. Jenna says, if saying men don't have enough testosterone, then isn't that an imbalance across many? When I say not enough testosterone, I'm speaking metaphorically. When I'm saying men don't have enough testosterone, that's a metaphor. When I say a man is a pussy, I'm not saying he actually has a vagina. Jenna, so don't take everything I say literally. The PR pinup said, white supremacist talking points. What did I say that was white supremacist? Jenna said, if these chemicals in food block testosterone and increase estrogen, maybe we are creating this. I get what you're saying on a scientific level, Jenna, but I'm speaking on a much more practical level. PR pinup said, grifter is always trying to sell you something. PR pinup, name a person who is in business who doesn't sell you something. How does it make someone a grifter? What's the difference between a grifter and a person who's actually doing honest business? Somebody answer that question in the comments. Tell me what a grifter is and tell me what a person doing honest business is. What's the difference between the two? When do you go from doing business to being a grifter? The only thing I see, I've talked about this many times. Only time someone calls somebody a grifter is if they disagree with you in general. So then anything you do, they call it a grift. But if somebody likes you and you're doing business, then you're just doing business. What's the difference? So over on Instagram, Jay said, I've heard of people pretending to be part of LGBTQ to get a job. A lot of places will ask about race, gender, and sexual orientation online applications. So that's interesting. I wouldn't do that, but I understand what you're saying. So the question is, I think I saw another straw man, but I lost my place in the comments. I saw a straw man. Here it is. Taco, someone with tacos, 47 said, what do you have against LGBTQ folks? That's a straw man question. So it's straw man of the day, number 4. What do you have against LGBTQ folks? I have nothing against them. If you want to be that, be that. What I challenge, the point I challenge is not against them as people. I challenge their approach. The approach that I'm challenging is demanding celebration and participation in concepts such as Pride Month, number 1. Number 2, pushing this concept on kids. And number 3, using emotional manipulation against anyone who pushes back against number 1 and number 2, which is what you did right there. So that answers your question. So we're at 74,000. Can we get to 80,000 likes, please, on TikTok? Billy W., good morning. Daryl Hikes says he's mentioned in another country, the A country down under, bans any speech the government classifies as attempting to change someone's status. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, good thing I live in Australia. Susie says New York has the rainbow painted on the sidewalk, forcing kids to ask why that is there. Yeah, exactly. Which makes it more work for the parents to have to explain this shit. Marky said, my phone was not working Friday. I watched you on YouTube 65N. What does that mean? You mean on TV? Marv said, are you a businessman? Yes, I am. Queen said, that's why I say for to homeschool your kids. But you get a lot more control that way. Absolutely. But I understand not everybody can do it. K-Bo said, I'm agreeing with you. You gave me an example of how to find information. All right, fair enough. Thank you. Jenna said, never catch straw man comments. I like that you explain this. Makes us smarter in our conversation. But a straw man is the most common logical fallacy probably amongst all of them. No, the straw man is not the most common. Straw man is the most common logical fallacy when it comes to disagreement. When people disagree with each other, the straw man is one of the most common things you'll hear. And the straw man is simply when someone takes something that you said or allegedly said, they rephrase it into something that you did not say, and then they throw it back at you as if they're challenging your point or as if they're asking you to confirm what you said, or they'll do it in like a way to ridicule you. So they'll try to ridicule you. So they'll say something like, LOL, you hate LGBTQ people. All right. So they use it as a ridicule, even though I never said that. And nothing I said that would get them to think that, but they use it as a way of ridicule because often if someone presents something that you allegedly said and they do it with ridicule, then people usually will respond back and say they'll try to defend themselves. And it's a control technique. So you just got to learn how to catch it. So we're at 76,000 likes. Marky Man, I appreciate you. See you. The most common logical fallacy, but there's so many of them. I don't know. The most common one is, it depends. It's like 800 logical fallacies if you get super, super detailed. But if you get familiar with about the top 10, then you can get pretty good at noticing most people's nonsense. Someone said, Daryl Hike said, who's the leader of the LG? Where you get all these letters from, Daryl? I don't even know all these letters you're pointing out here. Daryl Hikes put LGBTQIA2S. What's the 2S plus mean? I don't even know what that means. Might as well just say alphabet. Let's just say alphabet. Who's the leader? Who would I meet over a cup of coffee? Well, you're asking the wrong person. But what I would say is that they have stronger leadership and more clear strategy than Black Americans do, which is why they picked up so much steam and so much momentum in such a short period of time. But who's their leader? You're asking the wrong person. I don't know. But they got one. Shell said, basically used her as a free babysitter and now possible. Billy said, he's smart. Hopefully that's a compliment, not sarcasm. SB Hart said, 100% facts. Parents are not involved in their kids' lives and they wonder how they lose control. Yes. For the parents who are not involved, yes, that's exactly what happens. You just said, thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us. Keep on keeping it real. You're welcome. I'm glad you appreciate it. Let's see what else we got here. Tony said, I agree with your use of the rainbow and the way you talk about the role of men, women, and children. Well, the rainbow thing with God is not something to disagree with. That's what is actually in the book. You can read it for yourself. that the rainbow was God's signal to mankind that I will not do what I just did ever again. That's what the rainbow means. LGBTQ hijacked the rainbow to make it mean something other than what it actually means. And a lot of people don't know what it actually means. They only know it from the LGBTQ. So there's nothing to disagree with. Now, you can disagree with what I said about men, women, and children. That one you can disagree with because that's just my personal opinion. But if you disagree, okay, what's your view of it? EG said millions of grifters on TikTok upon millions. Well, how is everybody a grifter? Again, somebody tell me the difference between a grifter and someone actually doing business. What's the difference? In my view, the only difference between someone calling someone a grifter and someone saying someone's doing business is just whether you agree with them or disagree with them. If you agree with them, they're just doing business. And if you don't like them, then they're a grifter. What's the difference? Nothing. That's an emotional That's an emotional outburst when someone calls you a grifter. Someone said, actually, Tony said, it's a closed-minded, and I think you shove a lot of people away from your argument who wouldn't otherwise. So, Tony Soprano, you're saying that some of the things that I said might push some people away from my argument because of the way that I said it. I tell you, exactly. That's the fucking point. I'm not here to get everybody to agree with me. So actually, Tony, you are responding to something. You're offering a criticism that is based on a false presumption. Your false presumption is that I want a bunch of people to agree with me or I need everybody to be on the same page as me. I do not, and nor is that my aim. Episode 1364 of my podcast, I talked about this concept called rejection marketing. Most of you probably never heard of it. There's attraction marketing, which most of you have heard of or you see it. You see someone on Instagram or something like that, or a girl showing her ass off. That's attraction marketing. I'm trying to show you something that you like and bring more people to come see me because I'm doing things that you like and that you agree with. Or you see a man posing in front of a car or showing off a watch. That's attraction marketing. Rejection marketing is the inverse of this. This is when you say things that you know some people are going to disagree with it. Some people are really not going to like it. And some people are going to push back against you. And some people are going to say, I will never listen to this person again because they said something that I really disagree with. That's called rejection marketing. And I told you that was episode 1364 of my podcast. Today, I'm on episode I just let you listen to is episode 3301. I'm telling you that to tell you this. I said that rejection marketing thing 2,000 days ago, which is what, 365 days in a year? How many years are we talking? Maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I'm saying that to say this. I've been doing this for a long time. So actually, Tony Soprano, your presumption is that I'm trying to get everyone on the same page as me, and your presumption is incorrect. I am not. So if I happen to push you away because I offer an opinion that you disagree with, so be it. Now, you lose more by not listening to me than I lose by not having you listen to me. All due respect. Let's see. Shell said, a way of throwing a stone and hiding their hand. Yeah, pretty much. Someone said, AJ said Obama is a leader. Obama was an elected leader for the government. I'm talking about a leader that generally the people accept. Not a politician leader. What's Obama leading now? I mean, he stopped being president in 2016? What's he doing now? Is he a leader now? I mean, they pulled him off the bench to get Kamala elected. How'd that go? He ain't that much of a leader. Michelle, good morning to you. Karen said, I disagree with all the parents are not involved. Sometimes your kids are brainwashed to think the opposite. What do you mean? I didn't say all the parents are not involved. I was reading a comment that someone else left. So hopefully you understand it. Ruby said the rainbow was a covenant. Fact. Yes, of course it is. I mean, again, there's nothing to disagree with on that concept. Everyone knows. Well, not everyone knows. Excuse me. People who know where the rainbow came from. It did not come from the LGBTQ. Kyle said, spreading love and kindness. First three. No. Kyle, don't spam my comments. You might have to get blocked. Actually said, I think you have a strong opinion on rejection marketing, but you want to sharpen argument skills. Well, actually, if you're better than me, then you should do your own live and share your knowledge with people who want to hear it. You said the way you do is the opposite. Okay, well, if that's how you feel, again, do better than me on your platform. Don't tell me that you could do better. Prove it. After all, I'm streaming and you're in the comments. You don't see me in the comments when you're streaming. So what does that tell you? The proof is in the pudding. Let's remember where I'm from. I'm not from the TikTok world. I'm from the sports world. In the sports world, if you believe you're good, you got to prove it. You can't just talk about it. You got to prove it. You can't leave comments or talk from the bleachers. You got to get on the court or the field or the track, and you must prove that you're actually good. So if someone's in the stands talking to the person who's on the field playing, which person do you believe? The person in the stands or the person on the field? So actually, Tony, you got to get on the field. It sounds good from the bleachers, but we got to see it. KBOS said, you have sharp, crisp points when people try to come at you. Great job. Well, I've been doing this for a while, so thank you. I have a lot of experience dealing with internet commentators. So this is like sparring for me. It's like, actually, it's not like sparring. Sparring, you might go against somebody who's actually sharper than you. It's like hitting a heavy bag. Heavy bag is just there. You can just dance around it. Austin said, do you think the Washington Commanders can recreate the magic this season? I don't know. Jenna said, getting paid for your work versus unpaid is the next level. On some levels. Depends on what we're talking about. Merv was asking about the NBA Finals. I'm going to go with OKC. I think OKC is going to win. They got home court advantage. I think they got the best player in Alexander. And they have a really, really good defense. So I think they're going to win. Hopefully it'll be an entertaining series. But I think they're going to win. So while I'm waiting to see if anybody else comes in with a comment, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Can we get to 85,000 likes here, folks? While we're still here, we're at 81, 82,000 now. Can we get to 85? I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. The topic is always to be determined. I thought about this one actually yesterday. I wasn't even going to talk about this. I was going to talk about something else, and I'll tell you what other things I got on the docket. But I saw all those Pride Month celebration posts on X yesterday, and I'm like, oh, it's Pride Month, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but then I saw so many of them. I said, okay, so this is like a mainstream thing. Everybody's doing this? Okay. That is what led to this topic here today. And what I was going to talk about that we may talk about tomorrow is, y'all hear about this guy, Glenn Greenwald? Y'all know who he is, Glenn Greenwald? So Glenn Greenwald, for those who don't know him, he is a investigative journalist, and he's actually very good. I follow Glenn on social media. But I first heard him on the Megyn Kelly show, which I do listen to. Megyn Kelly is very good when it comes to just breaking down the news of the day. So I was listening to Megyn Kelly, and I heard him come on as a guest multiple times. He's very good, so I follow him on X. And what happened is this video came out of him, Mr. Greenwald. Speaking of LGBTQ, he is actually part of LGBTQ. He's a gay guy, and he's an investigative journalist. I didn't even know he was gay. I only found out he was gay when this video came out, which was, y'all saw this video about this guy? On Shell said, I can't get the link for the book. The thing is, you can't click on links on TikTok. You got to just type it in your browser. So Shell, you got to type the link in your browser. So all I can do is put it on here, but you can't click on it. That's the only thing TikTok is missing. You can't click on links in anywhere. You can't even click on links in the DMs in TikTok. So actually where you go is, Shell, go to the link in my profile, in my bio on TikTok. I'm going to pull it up on my other phone. So if you go to my profile on TikTok, and you see it right here, right? So there's a link there that says workonyourgame.live. That's the page for all of you who watch my live stream. So if you want to know where to go next, what to do next, open this link right here, workonyourgame.live. I'm opening it right here on my phone. So, all right. So it's going to open this link eventually. I'm telling it to open the link. Here it is. So as you can see, it says right there, if you like the live stream, here's your next move. So this is for all of you who watch my live streams. Here's where you go next. When you go to this page, let me tell you what you're going to find. First of all, you can get on my email list for free right there. You can join our circle, which is my group coaching program. It's $97 a month. There's a link that you can get more information about that there. And then all the links you need are right here. So YouTube, my group coaching, my podcast, the book, The Third Day, right there. See, free book, The Third Day. If you click on the link there, now it takes you right there. Another book you can get for free called The Mirror of Motivation. We got another one you can get for free called The Sales Discipline System. We just like giving stuff away for free. So here's your grift. All right, me giving shit away for free is my grift. Okay. Then Dre GP access to that if you remember my group coaching program. Then my X account, that's where I do all my active social media engagement. I don't engage on any other app. Then you can find out more about my coaching program, Work on Your Game University. There's a nice picture of me there. So all of that is at the link in my profile on TikTok. Those of you who are watching on TikTok. So if you want that link, just go to that. You want that link, go to that link. So Glenn Greenwald was what I was talking about. This video came out of him. Like he was doing some behind closed doors encounter with another gay guy, and the guy is filming. And it looks like Glenn knows that he's being filmed, but I guess he didn't think the video would come out. And he's doing some submissive stuff, sexual stuff, him and another man. And you can go find the video and watch it yourself if you want to. I'm not going to describe it. And anyway, this video comes out and is put out to basically undermine him and hurt his credibility, because some people don't like some of the things that he's reporting on, especially when it comes to the conflict over in the I country versus the P country, which I haven't even paid much attention to, so I haven't offered any opinions on that. But they put it out to undermine him, and the whole conversation that we're going to have is, does it matter? Does that matter? Does it matter when a person is a public figure and they're known for doing this over here, but then you find out something about their private life that's all the way over here? Does what's happening over here have any effect on what happens over here? That's the conversation that we're going to have. That might be the topic tomorrow. We'll see. To be determined. And I have opinions on this because a lot of people have come out with very strong opinions on this situation. And Glenn himself came out and he put out this long statement about that, about the videos, and he said what he had to say about it. So the conversation is really going to be about not him personally, but does it matter? If you know what someone does publicly that's all the way over here, and then you find out something about them privately that has nothing to do with this, but you know that they're into it. And it's not a rumor, it's real. Like, you know that that's the thing that they do. Because Glenn didn't say it didn't happen. He just said, that's a private thing that I was doing privately, and it has nothing to do with my work. And he's right. But does it affect the way you see that person or see their work? That's the conversation that will be had sometime this week. So we'll get into that probably this week. Another thing we're going to talk about is boys playing in girls sports. So we're going to come back to this conversation on a different subject. Boys playing in girls sports and people allowing this, especially in the state of California. We're going to talk about the TATE guy. Those brothers, they got charged in the United Kingdom. And we're going to talk about that eventually. I got to be careful. I can't say their names on TikTok. Like, their names are literally banned on TikTok. You literally cannot say this guy's name on this app. You get a warning if you say his name. So I will talk about that at some point, maybe this week. And then we're going to talk about, this is one I've been sitting on. I haven't gotten to it yet, but Black and brown and LGBTQ. People talk about this like we're one big group. We are not one big fucking group. Black people are our own group. Yes, Chief, that guy. Those two brothers. I can't say their names on TikTok because they'll give me a warning and they'll take down my content if I say their name. And that's been going on for years. It's been a while. I put out a video once. It was a clip of a video where I said, oh, I heard such and such, that person. I heard him say this, and it made me think about this. And then I started saying what I wanted to say, and they took the video off TikTok. They took the video off the app and said, you have violated our guidelines on hate speech, so we took your video down. Just because I said his name. All I did was say his name. I didn't say anything about it. I just said, he said that. I was giving him credit. I said, he said this, and it brought to my mind something else, and let me talk about the something else, and they took the video down just because I said his name. So TikTok is crazy on that. So another topic we will talk about is how Black people and brown people and LGBTQ people are not one big group. We are not all together. Black and brown is not one big group, by the way. Black is black. Brown is brown. We are not one group. And LGBTQ is not part of us. Now, if you happen to be Black and LGBTQ, then you got to go to two different meetings. All right, there's not one big meeting for all of us. Fuck that. So that conversation will be had as well. So all of these are possible topics on the docket. Again, we don't know what the topic will be tomorrow because between now and tomorrow, something might pop up on my radar that pushes all of that shit back, and we talk about that thing tomorrow. So we don't know what it is yet. So that's how I choose these topics. So I can't always tell you what it's going to be because I don't know. All that said, yeah, the censorship is crazy on TikTok. You got to be careful on TikTok. This is the reason why I actually was surprised with the way I was talking today that I didn't get any warnings. But I actually looked it up yesterday. I was looking this up. How does because I know TikTok is based in the country that starts with the letter C. I wanted to know what their views are politically or nationally on the LGBTQ stuff. They are even more restrictive. They are very restrictive, actually, compared to the United States. They're very restrictive. So that's probably why you can get away with talking about this freely on this app. But there are other things you cannot talk about on this app. That's why sometimes you hear me kind of talking around topics instead of actually saying them out loud, because they'll get you. Trust me, I've been suspended or banned on here 12 different times in the last 10 months for just saying something I wasn't supposed to say. Someone said, I thought the Sea Country wanted to allow us to get out the truth. Yeah, right. That's what they say until you say the wrong truth. You give them the wrong truth, then they got a problem with it. And trust me, I have been hit in the face with the Sea Country having a problem with me sharing an opinion that they didn't want me to share. And if you share the wrong opinion, they'll let you know real quick. Don't say that. You can say whatever you want, but don't say that. So that's where they are. So anyway, everybody, I will be back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We usually go from 8 to 10, no later than 10 o'clock. And the P. Diddy, we talked about P. Diddy like twice already, maybe 3 times. We'll talk about him again. We'll probably come back to P. Diddy once we get some more witness testimony, our Philly. So when we get some more witness testimony and I got a new angle on it, then we'll see that. So again, that could jump into at any time because that's an ongoing situation. So that one could usurp the whole situation any day just based on what's happening. So by the way, workonyourgame.live, go to the link in my profile on TikTok and you'll see that link. That's where you can access to all the free books and all the other stuff that I said. My YouTube channel will have the replays of every live that I have done. You can follow me on X at Dre All Day. You want to see me engage contextually in words with people on an app. And that is it. And I appreciate all y'all who came in who are new. Shout out to my moderators who helped us get the likes up. We got 87,000 likes here. I appreciate that. Make sure if you're not following me, you follow me here on TikTok because I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Monday. We are out of here. I'll see y'all tomorrow.